It's back, and it's back with a vengeance. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the reporting about this thing they're calling the Marburg virus. Well, it's basically, for all intents and purposes, Ebola, except it is extremely fatal. But there's a new twist to this particular event that is very, very different than others. Now, I'm sure a lot of you remember the reporting back in 2018, 2019. There was this very strange virus that was going around, and some were calling it Ebola, some were calling it something else. But the way they were treating it versus what they were saying was very, very different. How many of you remember the magical Ebola-proof snow fencing? Well, we have that image up for you in today's video. So before we get into this, it's also tied, hang on to your hats, to a story in Texas. Now, the first thing I would like to counsel everyone to do is if you go out traveling anywhere where you're going to be staying someplace overnight, before you unpack one sock, go into the room that you've rented, check the bed for the piping, the little edge around the bottom and the top of the mattresses, that dark colored piece of fabric that's got like a little wire in it, underneath and above for bed bugs, because they harbor blood. And it doesn't mean if the hotel you're in has these that they're a horrible, dirty, nasty hotel. It only takes one visitor who has them in their luggage or who has come from someplace who had them, and that's it. And one night stay, and that room will have it. And even the best hotels run into this problem, but these are little blood carriers. Be very careful of this. Now, before I forget, join us. We are 24 hours away from a video that's going to blow your mind over Patreon. It has something to do with what's going on in this country, what we're going to be facing in the next 2 to 3 years, and it's directly tied to what the founding fathers faced when they came here. It was a very different place than what the history books have written. Survival is survival, and you do what you have to do. Now, that's all I can really say here. But if you'd like to join us at Patreon, it's only $1 per month, even less if you sign up for an entire year. Fully refundable, first 90 days. What's the difference? Vimeo, gloves off. Gloves off. Imagery meant for adults. Discussion meant for adults. And over there, comment section is a little bit more lively than it is here, basically because there aren't censors. Now, real quick, just to give some shout outs to some friends. Lisa Haven, Justice Knight, a brand new video up yesterday. It's basically an intro to their brand new channel, We're Forked Up. It's where they go out and they sample restaurants. He was, I believe, an executive chef. And they go out, they just have a good time. They kind of relax. There's some bonus footage in here that I hadn't seen before that looks like it's from their trip to Mardi Gras. So check this out for sure. They have a lot of really great content. It's very funny. We've had a little bit of fun with them in the past with the whole Lisa Haven's a vampire thing. It's just a cautionary note about some types of reporting that get a little bit out of their lane, so to speak, by using psychological operations tactics. And that's actually what we teach at the Florida Maquis Patreon channel. We show things, and then we show how you can be led to believe something to be true when it's really not. Now, also, who remembers way back, a long time ago, I had recommended a guitar channel. This guy's name is Joe Var Veri. Joe space VAR space VERI. Joe Var Veri, incredible acoustic guitar player. He's got a brand new remake of Chris Isaak's Wicked Game. That's absolutely spectacular. Now, his best, my opinion, my humble opinion by far, is his reinterpretation of Dancing in the Dark by Bruce Springsteen. I never cared for the song all that much until I heard this version of it. And now it's one of my favorites. So definitely check this out. Joe Var Veri, absolutely spectacular guitar player. Does a lot of Elvis stuff, a lot of blues stuff. Really, really good. Now, story out of Texas. There was this trail cam, and this is all tied to Marburg, Africa. They found an animal on a trail cam that they could not identify. Some thought it was a blurry image of a couple of hogs going different directions. Some have said it's a badger, but none of it really fit until somebody said, hey, you know what this is? It's a fisher cat. Now, the reason, like, okay, well, that, what's so exciting about that? Here's another picture of a fisher cat at night. Fisher cats don't range into North America. Barely. Way up northern Minnesota, you might find some. The UP of Michigan, way up in Maine, possibly. But they don't range all the way down to Texas. Now, some might say, how did this happen? Why didn't we see them on trail cams anywhere else? Well, animals can be elusive. It's like, okay, great story, Mucky. This is, oh, by the way, this is the range of the fisher cat. I have never heard of fisher cats in California, ever. And I lived out there for a while, never heard of it. But apparently this is the range. Where they found this one was way down here in Texas. Now, animals can range into places where they're not supposed to be. This is an Egyptian fruit bat. CDC warns. Let me see if we can get the screen to... There we go. CDC warns doctors to watch for Marburg virus amid outbreaks in 2 African nations. Now, here's the key. Here's the kicker to this. The 2 African nations are not the normal ones. Normally, we hear of it out of Uganda and that region, the Congo. Not this time. Equatorial Guinea and Tanzania. Now, why does that make it different, Florida Maki? Africa's Africa, right? Absolutely not. You see, here's the Congo, Central African Republic, Rwanda. This area is where we normally hear of it. Equatorial Guinea is way over here, and it has a huge port, shipping port. It's on the water. Tanzania, the other outbreak, is way over here in Dar es Salaam. This is an ancient port. Zanzibar, these are where the biblical Cushites were from. Moses was married to a Cushite woman. This is an ancient port. These 2 countries, they're saying the 2 outbreaks are not tied together. If what they're saying is true, and I'm going to ask this question again, if what they're saying is true about these types of viruses, these filoviruses, that the only way you can catch it is if you come into contact with the fluids, bodily fluids of somebody who is already sick with it, how in the world do you have a simultaneous outbreak way over here on the west coast of Africa in Equatorial Guinea, and then also simultaneously in Tanzania? There are no roads, no real roads of any kind between the 2 places. But they do have ports. You see, one of the reasons that when it broke out in the Congo that they could usually contain it is there's no ports in the Congo. I suppose if you go way down here, there's this way down here. Most of the outbreaks were way over here inland. These outbreaks are now in port countries, major port countries. And let me see if I can... Marburg virus, CDC, this is 7 April. U.S. public health officials of Ebola-like disease. So the CDC is warning the U.S. Now, way back in 2018 and 19, when they were reporting this thing going around that they thought they had identified as Ebola, they showed this. And I'm like, wait a minute. Why do they need 6 feet of separation and giant snow fencing in between them to protect from Ebola? How in the world does this work? They were reassuring people. Now, in Africa, the reason they had to reassure people in Africa is because they have very different social and cultural practices that when somebody passes on, the contact with people that were still living is much greater than in North America. Most North Americans, when somebody has passed on, somebody has died, they know to not touch, not be around, not come in contact with a corpse. In Africa, it's very different. And so that's why they had to warn people, don't do this. Don't bring the bodies into homes. Don't have people hugging and kissing and all this stuff on, somebody who has gone on. It's a culture thing. But this is extremely strange. Because this is meaning you're not going to get, if somebody sneezes, you're not going to, get anywhere near those fluids. And like I said, this was all pre-COVID in Africa. So it just didn't line up for me when I saw the reporting and I saw what they were doing and how they were acting, and see how they got all these walls and barriers up. And there were people in Africa at the time that weren't buying it either, and they were refusing to bury people. And the people who were, and I think I brought this picture up, they were decked out in Mop 4 gear. I mean, they were absolutely covering everything, and they were bringing in extra layers of dirt for the cemeteries so they couldn't even bury him even deeper. This is all fact. And so now this is back, this Marburg, and it has a very high mortality rate. And the reason I tied it into this is that and the reservoir for this, they've said, this is fact, you can look this up on Google, fact checked, the reservoir for this is the Egyptian fruit bat. Okay, well, if we know that this animal here can range thousands of miles out of its range, this little tiny bat could easily make it aboard a ship and make it to the civilized world if he's the reservoir. How many people have seen the videos of crates being unpacked and these little bats all tucked up here and there and tucked up all over the place? See, we don't import much from the Congo, but ships are what ships are. And a ship might go from Africa to South America to the Caribbean, back to Africa again, and then that same ship might make its way to North America. Same thing over here with Tanzania, with Dar es Salaam. That ship could go to India and then to Thailand, and still have that little bat on it, and then to Singapore, and then on its way to Australia, and then New Guinea, and then make its way all the way around the globe to the West Coast, with just that same little bat just tucked away someplace. And that's all it would take. That is all it would take. So I just wanted to put this all together to show you guys that the animals truly have been acting very strange lately. There was another channel, Crystal, spelled with a K, Crystal Daniels, I believe is her name. You can look that up. I believe I've got her over on the channels that I follow. And she was talking a week or two ago about her animals acting very, very strange. And this is, I don't know how you look at this animal here and not, it's very clearly a marten. Some call them martens, some call them fisher cats. Basically the same idea. They're kind of a Wolverine light, so to speak. Not particularly friendly. They're known to hunt and kill porcupines, if that gives you any kind of indication, of what they're capable of doing. Normally pretty reclusive, though. To see one all the way on a trail cam in Texas is indication to me that something weird's happening around the globe. So anyway, just go over it real quick. Joe Varveri, fantastic remake of Chris Isaak's Wicked Game. His best, Dancing in the Dark for sure. At least my humble opinion. And then We're Forked Up, Lisa Haven, Justice Night. Fantastic information on their main channels, of course, Restricted Republic. But Lisa Haven at Mardi Gras, that had to have been something to see for sure. So anyway, would love to have you join us over at the Florida Monkey Patreon channel. $1. That's it. $1. Pardon me. Sorry about that. Had a cough come out of nowhere. $1 per month. Even less if you sign up for an entire year. It comes out to like 90 cents, like 3 pennies a day. And once again, if the imagery is too much for you, if it's, it's not the type of information you think is important, that's fine. You've got 90 days to figure that out. Not 30, not 60, 90 days, fully refundable. And like I said, up to $3. So you really wouldn't even be out that much. But the more folks I can get over there, and we have quite a few over there, the better, the more parity we get with the censors at YouTube. So anyway, God bless. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys next time.